everyone, it's Shell from Scrap Secrets and welcome back to my channel. Today is day 9 in the 2022 Countdown to Christmas series, and we're going to be making a shaker magnet. I've made one of these on my channel before, but never for the holidays, and I wanted to use some of the new products that I got from Hero Arts. So we're going to be using the Looking Glass dies called Holiday Kittens, and I cut them out of some watercolor paper. Now this was just in my stash and I didn't realize until I started watercoloring with it that it was the one that I got from Michaels in the kids section. I would not recommend using that for anything that you want to last, and I should have cut it out in Canson XL watercolor paper after I realized it, but I just went with it. So I am going to be watercoloring with some Distress ink, and I am using Mowed Lawn to go ahead and color in the tree. So I'll move it back into more of the frame in a second. I realized I was out of the frame. And we're going to be using Distress ink today instead of Oxide because Oxide gives that oxidized look, and I didn't want that cloudy color that you can get from oxides. I wanted more true vibrant color, so that's why I went with inks. Oh, I left a lot of the watercoloring in because I wanted to talk to you guys about something that happened to me the other day, and it probably happens to you guys who create things, whether it's art or in anything that you do when you're creating something. I participated in the Handmade Happiness Hop on Friday. There were 2 techniques and I decided to go with the one that I had never really heard of. So I looked it up and I Googled it I entered it into YouTube, found some videos, watched what a couple people were doing, and I'm like, oh, okay. So then on Friday, when the videos went live, I started watching the entire playlist and mine was last. So I was going through everybody's from start to finish. And the ones that did the same technique that I did, I'm like, oh my goodness, I did it wrong. This isn't how you do it. And I went through the whole entire thing and thinking, I did my video wrong. Do I take it down? Is it not right? But then I read the comments and people were saying that, they didn't know what Rediform was or Rediform, however you want to say it. I heard somebody say that it was an old technique. And I think the point that I wanted to, what I wanted to talk about today was there really is no wrong way to do art. So it may not have been a traditional Rediform, however you pronounce it, but mine got the idea across. So whether it was 100% correct or not, art can never really be right or wrong. It's really your perception of it, and I sometimes beat myself up way too much and think about it too much because I'm a little bit more structured, which is why I have difficulty with things like the gel press, where it's kind of a lot of free form. I kind of just get I need step-by-step directions. You do this, and then you do that, and do this. So a while ago, I was talking to some of my crafty friends, and we were talking about the differences between us as artists, and there were some of us that are very process-driven. So where I can do things like fun folds and cards and things that you need to do multiple steps in, and you have to do them in a specific order to get them done. Whereas some of my friends were more of kind of carefree artists that they do really well with things like the gel press, where there is no real right and wrong. If you do one step before another, it doesn't really matter because it's not really a process-driven thing. You just kind of do what you want. So I found it interesting that, I kind of went back to that conversation that I had with friends a while ago with the right and wrong in art. So just curious to see if you guys have experienced that. Did you ever participate in something and think, oh my goodness, it's so wrong? I used to do that in schoolwork too, or when people would do projects and then I would be so nervous because I thought what I did was wrong just because my interpretation of what the assignment wasn't exactly what some of the other people thought it was. So I've always had that kind of doubt in the back of my mind. So it kind of crept up into my art, which doesn't surprise me because I doubt myself a lot through the process. I usually get frustrated with myself, and let me tell you, I was in a artistic slump. I think I have 4 different videos that I started and have not finished yet because I just couldn't figure out how to finish the project. I really was in a slump and couldn't figure out how to get out of it. So I figured, let's do this project with watercoloring, because I thought watercoloring is something that I like doing with distress inks, distress oxides, or the intense watercolor pencils. I don't love doing watercolor with traditional watercolor palettes. Needless to say, I completely am doubting my creative ability and talents right now with all those unfinished projects and then watching the Hop video. I just had one of those things where I just had a lot of self-doubt. And I don't know whether it's because I took off from work and I have all day to be creative and then just can't figure out what to do. I will sit down and have a creative block. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe I need a little bit more structure, that I have to have something done. You know, when you're only have a couple hours after work to craft versus an entire day to craft, I can tend to be a procrastinator. So instead of getting something done, I'm like, oh, I have hours and hours left. And then all of a sudden it's dinner time and I haven't created anything. So maybe that's what it was. I don't know. But I really was on the struggle bus this week. Well, it was a rough week for creating, but I think after tonight doing this project, I like the way that it turned out. Again, I would have used the Canson XL watercolor paper to go ahead and watercolor this because the colors didn't really lay on top of each other nicely. The distress ink colors that I used some Salvage Patina, I believe it was Candied Apple, Weathered Wood, or not Weathered Wood, I'm sorry, Pumice Stone, and Hickory Smoke for the cat. I used Mowed Lawn and Pine Needles for the tree. I wanted the tree to have dimension and look like it had pine needles on it, like it was an actual Christmas tree. And then I colored the cat like Lucy. She was in the craft room. So tonight she jumped up onto the chair that was next to mine and just kept meowing and meowing and meowing. And I knew what she wanted. She wanted to jump on my desk, but I had stuff all over it and I really didn't want her up there because that also meant that I wouldn't be able to craft. But she somehow suckered me into doing it. So I put her on my lap and then she wanted to get up on the desk. So she was up there for a little bit and then put her down so that I could actually get some of this done. But I thought since she was in the craft room and Fred was upstairs, I thought that I would use her as the inspiration for the coloring of the kitten. I took out my white gel pen to add some details onto the kitten, and then we are going to move on to adding some Copic marker. I just added a teeny tiny bit to the cat's ears and then to the one cheek as well. And then I went back in with the white gel pen and added dots like I normally do. And this is a silver marker that I got from, I believe it was from Michaels. And I'm just going in and adding some silver detail to the ornaments, some of the stripes, and then the string that was hanging down. If you didn't want to go ahead and do all of this coloring, you definitely could cut this out of colored cardstock and then use some colored pencils, markers. You could use Nuvo drops, anything like that to add some of the details in. But I really wanted to go ahead and do some coloring. Oh, that's why I decided to watercolor instead. Plus, it's one of my favorite techniques. You can see how I took some of those dies and actually cut out some of the pieces. So really, it's just the top that is holding the ornaments and then the bottom that's holding the cat. I don't know if this is how it was supposed to be. I probably should go watch a Hero Arts video and learn how to do this, but this is just the way that I did it. If you guys have a different technique or you've used these before, let me know in the comments. And if you have videos on it, definitely let me know so I can check your video out if you've used these before. So you can see I'm just adding a teeny tiny bit of glue to the bottom of the cat and then some of the top of the ornaments, just so that they are sticking onto the into the image just a little bit. I also wanted them to be able to have some movement in there. Now I'm going around the edges of that gold frame that I cut out, and this is from some of that gold foil paper. Just placing it over top. I used a square die from, I believe it's Spellbinders, to cut this out. And I also cut out a piece of red cardstock. This is from a paper pack from Hobby Lobby. Cut it out with the same square die. It was actually one larger than I used to make that gold frame, and it was a little bit too big for the backing, so I just cut it down about, oh my goodness, I think it was like a 1/16 of an inch. I also cut a piece of the Sparkle Blends acetate to a little bit larger than the interior part of the frame and glued that down with my Honeybee Bee Creative glue, because we are going to make this a shaker. I took a bunch of Sparkle Blends sets that I've had lying around, and the first one that I use is called Minter is Coming, and I have, I think, 3 of these ones. I really, really love this. So I just went ahead and dumped that one out. That one is reds and whites, and then the clear one is Clearly in Love. There is a gingerbread one and then a coffee one that I use, and I just used some of the gold in there because I wanted it to be the reds and the golds and the clears. You're not really going to be able to see too much detail once because all the images pretty much cover that square, so there's not a ton of empty space where you can see the shaker pieces, but I still think that it came out cute. Oh, I am just adding the last couple pieces from the blends into that, and I put them into these containers. I got these from Target. I got them from that dollar spot that's not really a dollar anymore up front, probably about a year ago, and I think there were 2 or 3 in a pack. Now I'm just dumping it out onto the backing. I was going to do a double acetate shaker and then close it off with some acetate, but I decided against that because I added 2 layers of this foam tape, and then I'm just going to be able to easily place it on top of this. I did use my, here we go, you can see I do use my light kaolin clay powder to go around the edges of this, just to make sure that there's no stickiness that any of the shaker pieces could get stuck on. So I tend to do this when I do shakers, add just a little bit of that, and then you can just wipe it off. Usually it won't, if you have just a very little bit on your brush, you won't have any real residue left on it. So I've now glued that down, and now I'm using my ATG to go ahead and put some glue on the canvas part of this. This is a canvas magnet, so you can paint on it, you can stamp on it, and it didn't really want to take the tape. That's the project for today. I hope that you guys enjoyed watching this. Please make sure you go over and check out the intro video, which has all the details for the giveaway. And I will see you guys again real soon for another video. Bye!